Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Gyananjana-salakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Darati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yudapadakkamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijanasahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Sri Visakanvitam हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधो दीनबंधो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कांता राधा कांत नमोस्तुते तप्तकांचन गौरंग वृंदावनेश्वरी भानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये स्वरूप्यश्च सिन्धुभ्यः वच पतितानं पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः विष्णुपदाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणि प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवारि पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे जय श्रीकृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासारि गौरभक्तवृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. Haribol. So today we are going to read some Nectar of Instruction. Maybe we will finish the book. We continue from text number 8. तन्नामरूपाचरितादिसुकीर्तिनानु स्मृत्योस्क्रमेण रसना मनसि नियोज्य तिष्ठन् व्रजेतादनुरागी जनानुगामी कालं नयेदखिलमित्युपादेशसारम्. Word to word. Tat of Lord Krishna. Oh, Hare Krishna, everyone. Tandar Pranam Jai Shri Prabhupada. Thank you for joining. So now word to word. Tat of Lord Krishna. Nama, the holy name. Rupa, form. Charitadi, character. Pastimes, and so on. Sukirtana, in discussing or chanting nicely. Anusmrityo, and in remembering. Kramena, gradually. Rasana, the tongue. Manasi, and one's mind. Niyoja, engaging. Tishtan, residing. Vraje, in Vraja. Tat, to Lord Krishna. Anuragi, attached. Jana, persons. Anugami, following. Kalam, time. Nayed, should utilize. Akilam, full. Iti, thus. Upadesha, of advice or instruction. Saram, the essence. Translation. The essence of all advice is that one should utilize one's full time, 24 hours a day, in nicely chanting and remembering the Lord's divine name, transcendental form, qualities, and eternal pastimes, thereby gradually engaging one's tongue and mind. In this way, one should reside in Vraja, Goloka Vrindavan Dham, and serve Krishna under the guidance of devotees. One should follow in the footsteps of the Lord's beloved devotees, who are deeply attached to his devotional service. Since the mind may be one's enemy or one's friend, one has to train the mind to become his friend. The, the Krishna consciousness movement is especially meant for training the mind to be always engaged in Krishna's business. The mind contains hundreds and thousands of impressions, not only of this life, but also of many, many lives of past. These impressions sometimes come in contact with one another and produce contradictory pictures. In this way, the mind's function can become dangerous for conditioned soul. Students of psychology are aware of mind's various physiological changes. In Bhagavad Gita 8.6 it is said, Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam tyadyante kalevaram tam tameva iti konteya sada tadbhava bhavita. Whatever state of being one remembers when he quits his body, that state he will attain without fail. At the time of death, the mind and intelligence of living entity create the subtle form of certain type of body for the next life. If the mind is suddenly if the mind suddenly thinks of something not very congenial, one has to take a corresponding birth in the next life. On the other hand, if one can think of Krishna at the time of death, he can be transferred to the spiritual world, Goloka Vrindavan. This process of transmigration is very subtle. Therefore, Srila Rupa Goswami advises devotees to train their minds in order that they will be unable to remember anything other than Krishna. Similarly, the tongue should be trained to speak only of Krishna and to taste only Krishna Prasad. Srila Rupa Goswami further advises Tishtan Vraje, one should live in Vrindavan or any part of Vrajabhumi. Vrajabhumi or the land of Vrindavan is supposed to be 84 kroshas in area. One krosha equals 2 square miles. When one makes Vrindavan his residence, he should take shelter of an advanced devotee there. In this way, one should always think of Krishna and his pastimes. This is further elucidated by Srila Rupa Goswami in his Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1-294. Krishnam smaranjanam chasya प्रष्टं नीचासमीहितं तत्तं कथारतश्चासौ कुर्याद्वासं व्रजे सदा. A devotee should always reside in the transcendental realm of Vraja and always engage in Krishnam Smaranam Janam Chasya Preshtam, the remembrance of Krishna and his beloved associates. By following in the footsteps of such associates and by entering under their eternal guidance, one can acquire an intense desire to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Again, Srila Rupa Goswami states in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1-294, Seva sada karupena siddharupena chatrahi tadbhava lipsuna karya vraja lokanusharata. In the transcendental realm of Vrajadam, one should serve the Supreme Lord, Sri Krishna, with a feeling similar to that of his associates, and one should place himself under the direct guidance of a particular associate of Krishna and should follow in his footsteps. This method is applicable both in the stage of sadhana, spiritual practices executed while in the stage of bondage, and in the stage of sadhya, God realization. When one is a Siddha Purusha or spiritually perfect soul, when one is a Siddha Purusha or a spiritually perfect soul. Oh. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur has commented as follows upon this verse. One who has not yet developed interest in Krishna consciousness should give up all material motives and train his mind by following the progressive regulative principles, namely chanting and remembering Krishna and his name, form, quality, pastimes, and so forth. In this way, after developing a taste for such things, one should try to live in Vrindavan and pass his time constantly remembering Krishna's name, fame, pastimes, and qualities under the direction and protection of an expert devotee. This is the sum and substance of all instruction regarding the cultivation of devotional service. In the neophyte stage, one should always engage in hearing Krishna Katha. This is called Shravana Das, the stage of hearing. By constantly hearing the transcendental holy name of Krishna and hearing of his transcendental form, qualities, and pastimes, one can attain to the stage of acceptance called Varanadasha. When one attains this stage, he becomes attached to the hearing of Krishna Katha. When one is able to chant in ecstasy, he attains the stage of Smarana Vashta, the stage of remembering. Recollection, absorption, meditation, constant remembrance, and trance are the 5 items of progressive Krishna Smarana. At first, remembrance of Krishna may be interrupted at intervals, but later remembrance proceeds uninterrupted. When remembrance is uninterrupted, it becomes concentrated and is called meditation. When meditation expands and becomes constant, it is called anusmriti. By uninterrupted and unceasing anusmriti, one enters the stage of samadhi or spiritual trance. After smarana dasha, or samadhi has fully developed, the soul comes to understand his original constitutional position. At that time, he can perfectly and clearly understand his eternal relationship with Krishna, that is called Sampatidasha, the perfection of life. Chaitanya Charitamrita advises those who are neophytes to give up all kinds of motivated desires and simply engage in the regulative devotional service of the Lord according to the directions of the scripture. In this way, a neophyte can gradually develop attachment for Krishna's name, fame, form, qualities, and so forth. When one has developed such attachment, he can spontaneously serve the lotus feet of Krishna even without following the regulative principles. This stage is called Raga Bhakti, or devotional service in spontaneous love. At that stage, the devotee can follow in the footsteps of one of the eternal associates of Krishna in Vrindavan. This is called Raganuga Bhakti. Raganuga Bhakti, or spontaneous devotional service, can be executed in the Shanta Rasa, when one aspires to be like Krishna's cows, or the stick or flute in the hand of Krishna, or the flowers around Krishna's neck. In the Dasharas, one follows in the footsteps of servants like Chitraka, Patraka, Raktaka. In the friendly Shakyaras, one can become a friend like Baladeva, Sridham, or Sudam. In the Vatsalya characterized by parental affection, one can become like Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda. And in the Madhurya Ras, characterized by conjugal love, one can become like Srimati Radharani or her lady friends such as Lalita and her serving maids Manjaris like Rupa and Rati. This is the essence of all instruction in the matter of devotional service. Whoa. Okay, who wants to continue the next verse?
Prabhu, may I read?
Yes, Prabhu.
वैकुण्ठसञ्जनितो वरामधुपुरी तत्र विरासोत्सवान् वन्दारण्यमुदारबाणरमणान् तत्रापि गोवर्धनः राधाकुण्डमिहापि गोकुलपते प्रेमामृताप्लावनात् पुर्यादस्तु याजितो गुरुतटे सेवामि बेकी नगः Vaikunthas, known in Vaikunthas and Vaikuntha, the spiritual Lord is a Nitya. Because of birth, Vara, better, Madhupuri, the transcendental city known as Mathura, Tatrapi is superior to that Rasatwa because of performance of the Ras Leela, Vrindaranyam, the forest of Vrindavan, Kular, Pani, of Lord Krishna, Ramarat, because of various kinds of loving pastimes. Tatrapi, superior to that Govardhana, Govardhana hill. राधा कुंडम, a place called Radha Kunda. यहाँ पे superior to this Gokulpate of Krishna, master of Gokula, Premamrita with the nectar of divine love, Plavanat, God of being overflowed. Koreat Uddu Asya of this Radha Kunda. Virajita situated Giritate at the foot of Godhan Hill. Shivam service Veki who is intelligent, not Kahu. Translation. The holy place known as Mathura is spiritually superior to Vaikuntha, the transcendental world, because the Lord appeared there. Superior to Mathurapuri is the transcendental forest of Vrindavan because of Krishna's Rasleela pastimes, and superior to the forest of Vrindavan is Golden Hill, for it was raised by divine hand of Sri Krishna and was the site of his various loving pastimes, and above all the super excellent Sri Radha Kunda stands supreme, for it is overflowed with the ambrosial nectarian prima of the Lord of Gokula, Sri Krishna. Where then is that intelligent person who is willing to serve his divine Radha Kunda, which is situated at the foot of Godhead? The spiritual world is three-fourths of total creation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and it is most exalted region. The spiritual world is naturally superior to the material world, however, Mudra and the adjoining areas also appearing in the material world are considered superior to spiritual world because the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself appeared at Mathura, the interior forest of Vrindavan are considered superior to Mathura because of presence of the 12 forest taras such as Talwan, Madhuvan and Bhulavan, which are famous for various pastimes of the Lord. Thus, the interior Vrindavana forest is considered superior to Mathura, but superior to this forest is the divine Govardhan hill, because Krishna lifted Govardhan hill like an umbrella, raising it with his lotus-like beautiful hand to protect his associates, the denizens of Braja, from the torrential rain sent by angry Indra, king of the demigods. It is also at Gordon Hill that Krishna tends the cows with his cowherd friends, and there also he had his rendezvous with his most beloved Radha and engaged in loving pastime with her Radha Kunda. At the foot of Gordon is the superior to all because it is there that love of Krishna overflows. Advanced devotees prefer to reside at Radha Kunda because this place is the site of many memories of eternal loving affair between Krishna and Radha Rani Rati Vilas. In Chaitanya Charitamrita Leela, it is stated that when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu first visited the area of through whom he could not at first find the location of Radha Kunda. This means that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was actually searching for the exact location of Radha Kunda. Finally, he found the holy spot, and there was a small pond. There he took his bath in that small pond and told his devotees that the actual Radha Kunda was situated there. Later the pond was excavated by Lord Chaitanya's devotee, headed first by six Goswamis, such as Rup Goswami and Raghunath Das. Presently, there is a large lake known as Radhakund there. Sri Rup Goswami has given much stress to Radhakund because of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's desire to find it, who then would give up Radhakund and try to reside elsewhere. No person with transcendental intelligence would do so. The importance of Radhakund, however, cannot be realized by other Vaishnava Sampradayas, nor can person interested in the devotional service of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu understand the spiritual importance and divine nature of Radha Kunda. Thus, Radha Kunda is mainly worshipped by the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, the follower of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So you can continue. Thank you.
Ribo, thank you so much, Prabhu. Okay, I read one. Or does anyone else want to read Rahul Prabhu or Pranjal Prabhu? Okay, Haribol, I can read also. कर्मी व्यपरितो हरे प्रियतया व्यक्तिं ययुज्ञानिनास्तेभ्यो ज्ञानविमुक्तभक्तिपरमा प्रेमैकनिष्ठस्तथा तेभ्यस्ता पशुपालपङ्कजदृशास्ताभ्योऽपि साराधिका प्रेष्ठात्वदिदं तदीयसरसि तं नश्रयेत् कः कृति. Word to word. Karmibhya, than all fruitive workers. Harita, in all respects, Hare, by the Supreme Person of Godhead, Priyataya, because of being favored, Bhaktim Yaju. It is said in the Shastra, Jnanina, those advanced in knowledge, Tebhya superior to them, Jnana Vimukta, liberated by knowledge, Bhakti Parama, those engaged in devotional service. Prema Ekanishta, those who have attained pure love of God. Tata, superior to them, Tebhya, better than them. Taha, they. Pashupala Pankaja Drisha, the gopis who are always dependent on Krishna, the cowherd boy. Tabya, above all of them, Api certainly, Sa, she, Radhika, Srimati Radhika, Preshta, very dear, Tadvat. Similarly, Yam, this, Tadiya, Sarasi, her lake, Sri Radha Kunda, Tam, Radha Kunda, Na, Nat, Ashrayet, would take shelter of Kaha, who, Kriti, most fortunate. Translation. In the Shastras, it is said that of all types of fruitive workers, he who is advanced in knowledge of the higher values of life is favored by the Supreme Lord Sri Hari. Out of many such people who are advanced in knowledge, Gyanis, or one who is particularly liberated by virtue of his knowledge, may take to devotional service. Out of many Gyani Prabhus, one Gyani Prabhu will take the devotional service. He is superior to the others. However, one who has actually attained prema, pure love of Krishna, is superior to him. The gopis are exalted above all the advanced devotees because they are always totally dependent upon Sri Krishna, the transcendental cowherd boy. Among the gopis, Srimati Radharani is the most dear to Krishna. Her Kunda lake is as profoundly dear to Lord Krishna as this most beloved of the gopis. Her Kunda lake is as profoundly dear to Lord Krishna as this most beloved of the gopis. Who then will not reside at Radhakunda and in a spiritual body surcharged with ecstatic devotional feelings, aprakrita bhava, render loving service to the divine couple Sri Sri Radha Govinda, who perform their Ashtakalya Leela, their eternal eightfold daily pastimes. Indeed, those who execute devotional service on the banks of Radha Kunda are the most fortunate people in the universe. Haribol, Sri Radha Kunda ki jai. Purport. At the present moment, almost everyone is engaged in some kind of fruitive activity. Those who are desirous of gaining material profits by working are called karmis, or fruitive workers. All living entities within this material world have come under the spell of Maya. This is described in the Vishnu Purana 6.7.61. Vishnu Sakti Para Prokta Kshetrajnagya Tata Para Avidya Karma Samgyana Tritiya Shaktirishate CC Madhya 6154. Sages have divided the energies of the Supreme Person of Godhead into three categories, namely the spiritual energy. What was this called? I forgot now. How can this be? My brain froze. Marginal energies, I think it's Tatashta Shakti. Oh, I don't know. Spiritual energy, marginal energy, and material energy. The material energy is considered to be the third class energy. Tritiya Shakti. I wouldn't have known this. Those living beings within the jurisdictions of the material energy sometimes engage themselves like dogs and hogs in working very hard simply for sense gratification. However, in this life or after executing pious activities in the next life, some karmis become strongly attracted to performing various kinds of sacrifices mentioned in the Vedas. Thus, on the strength of their pious merit, they are elevated to the heavenly planets. Actually, those who perform sacrifices strictly according to the Vedic injunctions are elevated to the moon and planets above the moon. As mentioned in Bhagavad Gita 9:21, Kshine Punye Martyalokam Vishanti. After exhausting the results of their so-called pious activities, they again return to the earth, which is called Martyaloka, the place of death. Although such persons may be elevated to the heavenly planets by their pious activities, and although they may enjoy life there for many thousands of years, they nonetheless must return to this planet when the results of their pious activities are exhausted. This is the position of all karmis, including those who act piously and those who act impiously. On this planet, we find many businessmen, politicians, and others who are simply interested in material happiness. They attempt to earn money by all means, not considering whatever such means are pious or impious. Such people are called karmis, or gross materialists. Among the karmis are some vikarmis, people who act without the guidance of Vedic knowledge. Those who act on the basis of Vedic knowledge perform sacrifices for the satisfaction of Lord Vishnu and to receive benedictions from him. In this way, they are elevated to the higher planetary systems. Such karmis are superior to the vikarmis, for they are faithful to the directions of the Vedas and are certainly dear to Krishna. In Bhagavad Gita 4:11, Krishna says, Ye yatama prapadyante tams tataiva bhajam yaham. In whatever way one surrenders unto me, I reward him accordingly. Krishna is so kind that he fulfilled the desires of the karmis and gyanis, not to speak of the bhaktas. Although the karmis are sometimes elevated to the higher planetary systems, as long as they remain attached to fruitive activities, they must accept new material bodies after death. If one acts piously, he can attain a new body among the demigods in the higher planetary systems, or he may attain some other position in which he can enjoy a higher standard of material happiness. On the other hand, those who are engaged in impious activities are degraded and take births as animals, trees, and plants, and fishes. Oh. Thus those fruitive actors who do not care for the Vedic directions, Vikarmis, are not appreciated by learned saintly persons. As stated in Srimad Bhagavatam 554, Nunam pramatta kurute no, what is this? Yeah, Nunam pramatta kurute vikarma yatindriya pritaya prinoti nasadu manye yata atmanoyam asannapi kleshada asadeha. Materialists who work very hard like dogs and hogs simply for sense gratification are actually mad. Dogs and hogs are mad. They simply perform all kinds of abominable activities simply for sense gratification. Materialistic activities are not at all worthy of an intelligent man, for as a result of such activities one gets a material body which is full of misery. The purpose of human life is to get out of the threefold miserable conditions which are concomitant with material existence. Unfortunately, fruitive workers are mad to earn money and acquire temporary material comforts by all means. Therefore, they risk being degraded to lower species of life. Materialists foolishly make many plans to become happy in this material world. They do not stop to consider that they will live only for a certain number of years, out of which they must spend the major portion acquiring money for sense gratification. Ultimately, such activities end in death. Materialists do not consider that after giving up the body, they may become embodied as lower animals, plants, or trees and fishes. Thus, all their activities simply defeat the purpose of life. Not only are they born ignorant, but they act on the platform of ignorance, thinking that they are getting material benefits in the shape of skyscraper buildings, big cars, honorable positions, and so on. The materialists do not know that in the next life they will be degraded and that all their activities simply serve as parabhava, their defeat. This is the verdict of Srimad Bhagavatam 555. Parabhavastavat abodhajata. One should therefore be eager to understand the science of the soul, Atma Tattva. Unless one comes to the platform of Atma Tattva, by which one understands that the soul and not the body is oneself, one remains on the platform of ignorance. Out of thousands and even millions of ignorant people who are wasting their time simply gratifying their senses, one may come to the platform of knowledge and understand higher values of life. Such a person is called a jnani. The jnani knows that fruitive activities will bind him to material existence and cause him to transmigrate from one kind of body to another, as indicated in Srimad Bhagavatam by the term Sharira Bandha, bound to bodily existence. As long as one maintains any conception of sense enjoyment, his mind will be absorbed in karma fruitive activity and this will oblige him to transmigrate from one body to another. Thus, a jnani is considered superior to a karmi because he at least refrains from the blind activities of sense enjoyment. This is the verdict of the Supreme Person of Godhead. However, although a jnani may be liberated from the ignorance of the karmis, unless he comes to the platform of devotional service, he is still considered to be in ignorance, avidya. Although one may be accepted as a jnani or one advanced in knowledge, his knowledge is considered impure because he has no information of devotional service, and thus neglects the direct worship of the Lord of the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. When a jnani takes to devotional service, he rapidly becomes superior to an ordinary jnani. Such an advanced person is described as jnana vimukta bhakti, parama. How a jnani takes to devotional service is mentioned in Bhagavad Gita, wherein Krishna says, Bahunam janmanam ante jnanavan mam prapadyate vasudeva sarvamiti samahatma sudurlabha. After many, many births and deaths, he who is actually in knowledge surrenders unto me, knowing me to be the cause of all causes and all that is. Such a great soul is very rare. Actually, a person is wise when he surrenders unto the lotus feet of Krishna, but such a Mahatma, great soul, is very rare. After taking the devotional service under the regulative principles, a person may come to the platform of spontaneous love of Godhead, following in the footsteps of great devotees like Narada and Sanaka and Sanatana. The Supreme Person of Godhead then recognizes him to be superior. The devotees who have developed love of Godhead are certainly in an exalted position. Of all these devotees, the gopis are recognized as superior because they do not know anything other than satisfying Krishna, nor do the gopis accept any return from Krishna. Indeed, sometimes Krishna puts them into extreme suffering by separating himself from them. Nonetheless, they cannot forget Krishna. When Krishna left the Vrindavan for Mathura, the gopis became most dejected and spent the rest of their lives simply crying in separation from Krishna. This means that in one sense they were never actually separated from Krishna. There is no difference between thinking of Krishna and associating with him. Rather, Vipralamba Seva, thinking of Krishna in separation, as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did, is far better than serving Krishna directly. Thus, of all the devotees who have developed unallied devotional service for Krishna, the gopis are most exalted, and out of all these exalted gopis, Srimati Radharani is the highest. No one can excel the devotional service of Srimati Radharani. Indeed, even Krishna cannot understand the attitude of Srimati Radharani. Therefore, he took her position and appeared as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu just to understand her transcendental feelings. In this way, Srila Rupa Goswami gradually concludes that Srimati Radharani is the most exalted devotee of Krishna and that her Kunda lake, Sri Radha Kunda, is the most exalted place. This is verified in a quotation from Bhagavatamrita, Uttarakhanda 45, as quoted in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Yata Radha Priya Vishnos Tasya Kundam Priyam Tata Sarva Gopishu Saivaika Vishnu Ratyanta Vallabha. Just as Srimati Radharani is dear to Supreme Lord Krishna, Vishnu, so her bathing place, Radha Kunda, is equally dear to Krishna. Among all the gopis, she alone stands supreme as the Lord's most beloved. Therefore, everyone interested in Krishna consciousness should ultimately take shelter of Radha Kunda and execute devotional service there throughout one's life. This is the conclusion of Rupa Goswami in the 10th verse of Upadeshamrita. Ribol. Okay, last verse. Who wants to read? Krishnasyochai pranaya vashati preyashibhyopi radha kundam chasya munibir abitas tadrik eva vyadayai yat preshtairapi alama sulabam kim Ashulabam kim punarbhakti bhajam tatpremedam sakrit api sarasna. Okay, this is too hard for me. Tatpremedam sakrit api saraha snatu ravishkaroti. Yeah, this last one is always really difficult. doesn't seem to fit, but somehow it goes. Only Gora Shakti Prabhu knows how to chant it. Okay, word to word. Krishnasya of Lord Shri Krishna, Uchai very highly, Pranaya Vasati, object of love, Preya Shibhya, out of many lovable gopis, Api certainly, Radha, Srimati Radharani, Kundam lake, Cha also, Asya of her, Munibi by great sages, Abhita in all respects, Tadrakeva similarly, Vyadai is described, yet which Preshtai by the most advanced devotees, Api even, Alam enough, Ashulabam difficult to obtain, Kim what, Punaha again, Bhakti Bhajam for persons engaged in devotional service, that Prema, love of Godhead, Idam this, Sakrit once, Api even, Saraha lake, Snatu of one who has bathed, Avishkaroti arouses. Translation. Of the many objects of favored delight and of all the lovable damsels of Raja Bhumi, Srimati Radharani is certainly the most treasured object of Krishna's love, and in every respect her divine Kunda is described by great sages as similarly dear to him. Undoubtedly, Radha Kunda is very rarely attained even by great devotees. Therefore, it is even more difficult for ordinary devotee to attain. If one simply bathes once within those holy waters, one's pure love of Krishna is fully aroused. Purport. Why is Radha Kunda so exalted? The lake is so exalted because it belongs to Srimati Radharani, who is the most beloved object of Sri Krishna. Among all the gopis, she is the most beloved. Similarly, her lake Sri Radha Kunda is also described by great sages as the lake that is as dear to Krishna as Radha herself. Indeed, Krishna's love for Radha Kunda and Srimati Radharani is the same in all respects. Radha Kunda is very rarely attained, even by great personalities fully engaged in devotional service, not to speak of ordinary devotees who are only engaged in the practice of Vaidhi Bhakti. It is stated that a devotee will at once develop pure love of Krishna in the wake of the gopis if he once takes a bath in Radha Kunda. Srila Rupa Goswami recommends that even if one cannot live permanently on the banks of Radha Kunda, he should at least take a bath in the lake as many times as possible. This is a most important item in the execution of devotional service. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur writes in this connection that Sri Radhakunda is the most select place for those interested in advancing in their devotional service in the wake of the lady friends Sakhis and confidential serving maids Manjaris of Srimati Radharani. Living entities who are eager to return home to the transcendental kingdom of God, Goloka Vrindavan, by means of attaining their spiritual body, Siddha Deha, should live at Radha Kunda, take shelter of the confidential serving maids of Sri Radha, and under their direction engage constantly in her service. This is the most exalted method for those engaged in devotional service under the protection of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. In this connection, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur writes that even great sages and great devotees like Narada and Sanaka do not get an opportunity to come to Radha Kunda to take their baths. What then to speak of ordinary devotees? If by great fortune one gets an opportunity to come to Radha Kunda and bathe even once, he can develop his transcendental love for Krishna, exactly as the gopis did. It is also recommended that one should live on the banks of Radhakunda and should be absorbed in the loving service of the Lord. One should bathe there regularly and give up all material conceptions, taking shelter of Sri Radha and her assistant gopis. If one is thus constantly engaged during his lifetime, after giving up the body, he will return back to Godhead to serve Sri Radha in the same way as he contemplated during his life on the banks of Radhakunda. The conclusion is that to live on the banks of the Radha Kunda and to bathe there daily constitute the highest perfection of devotional service. It is a difficult position to attain, even for great sages and devotees like Narada. Thus, there is no limit to the glory of Sri Radha Kunda. By serving Radha Kunda, one can get an opportunity to become an assistant of Srimati Radharani under the eternal guidance of the gopis. Haribo, the Nectar of Instruction ki jai. Okay, now we chant Viksastakam prayer. चेतो दर्पणमार्जनं भवमहादावाग्निर्वापनं श्रेयः कैरवचन्द्रिका वितरणं विद्यावधूजीवनम् आनन्दं बुद्धिवर्धनं प्रतिपदं पूर्णामृतस्वदनं सर्वात्मास्नपनं परं विजयते श्रीकृष्णसङ्कीर्तनम् नाम्नामकारि बहुधानि च सर्वशक्तिस्तत्रार्पितानि अमिता स्मरणेन काला एतादृशी तव कृपा भगवन्ममापि दुर्दैवमिदर्शमिह जानिनानुरागः तृणादपि सुनीचेन तरोरपि सहिष्णुना मानिना मानदेन कीर्तनीया सदा हरि न धनं न जनं न सुन्दरीं कवितं वा जगदीश कामये मम जन्मनि जन्मनीश्वरे भवतद्भक्तिरहैतुकी त्वयि ऐनन्ततनुजा किङ्करं पतितं मां विषमे भवाम्बुधौ कृपया तव पादपङ्कजस्थितधूलिसदृशं विचिन्तय नयनं गलदश्रुधारया वदनं गद्गदाहृदया गिरा पुलकर्निशितं वपुः कदा तव नाम गृहणे भविष्यति युगायितं निमेषेण चक्षुषा प्रावेश्यायितं शून्यायितं जगत्सर्वं गोविन्दविरहेण मे अश्लिष्य वा पादरतं पिनष्टु मामदर्शनन्मर्महतां करोतु वा यथा तथा वा विधाता तुलम्बतो मत्प्राणनाथस्तु स एव न परः Glory to the Sri Krishna Sankirtan, which cleanses the heart of all the dust accumulated for years and extinguishes the fire of conditional life of repeated birth and death. This Sankirtan movement is the prime benediction for humanity at large because it spreads the rays of the benediction moon. It is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean of transcendental bliss and it enables us to fully taste the nectar for which we are always anxious. O my Lord, your holy name alone can render all benediction to living beings, and thus you have hundreds and millions of names like Krishna and Govinda. In these transcendental names you have invested all your transcendental energies. They are not even hard and fast rules for chanting these names. O my Lord, out of kindness you enable us to easily approach you by your holy names, but I am so unfortunate that I have no attraction for them. One should chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than the straw in the street. One should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and should be ready to offer all respect to others. In such a state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. O Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor do I desire beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers. I only want your causeless devotional service, birth after birth. O son of Maharaj Nanda Krishna, I am your eternal servitor, yet somehow or other I have fallen into the ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from this ocean of death and place me as one of the atoms at your lotus feet. O my Lord, when will my eyes be decorated with tears of love flowing constantly when I chant your holy names? When will my voice choke up, and when will the hairs of my body stand on end at the recitation of your name? O Govinda, feeling your separation, I'm considering a moment to be like 12 years or more. Tears are flowing from us like torrents of rain, and I'm feeling all vacant in the world in your absence. I know no one but Krishna as my Lord, and he shall remain so, even if he handles me roughly by his embrace or makes me broken-hearted by not being present before me. He's completely free to do anything and everything, for he's always my worshipful Lord, unconditionally. The 10 offenses to the holy name. First offense, to blaspheme the devotees who are dedicated their their lives for propagating the holy name of the Lord. Second offense, to consider the names of demigods like Lord Shiva, Lord Brahma to be equal to or independent of the name of the Lord Vishnu. Third offense, to disobey the order of the spiritual master or consider him as an ordinary person. Fourth offense, to blaspheme the Vedic scriptures or scriptures in Persian to the Vedic version. Fifth offense, to consider the glories of chanting Hare Krishna to be an imagination. Sixth offense, to give some interpretation to the holy name of the Lord. Seventh offense, to commit sinful activities on the strength of the holy name. Eighth offense, to consider the chanting of Hare Krishna as one of the auspicious ritualistic activities which are offered in the Vedas as fruitive activities, karma kanda. Ninth offense, to instruct a faithless person about the glories of the holy name. Tenth offense, to not have complete faith in the chanting of the holy name and to maintain material attachments even after understanding so many instructions on this matter. It is also an offense to be inattentive while chanting. Every devotee who claims to be Vaishnava must guard against these offenses in order to quickly achieve the desired success. Krishna Prema. Let us offer our humble obeisances to all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord, who are just like desire trees, who can fulfill all desires and are full of compassion for the fallen conditioned souls. Vancha kalpatarupyascha आनंद गौरी वैष्णव की जय श्री प्रभु की जय निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल